Okay, I'd like to go ahead and call the Committee of the Whole meeting to order. It is Tuesday, September 16th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Melissa, could you do a roll call, please?
Keller.
Here.
Hedges.
Here.
Tice.
Here.
Flitzka.
Here.
Allanen.
Here.
Moats.
Here.
Lukasak.
Here.
Duval.
Absent. Committee, you should have received a copy of the minutes from the September 2nd, 2025 meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve? So moved by Jeff Hallinan, seconded by Sherry Tice. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Under new business, we have a resolution. So Melissa, could you read the resolution?
A resolution adopting the findings of the feasibility study performed by American Structure Point on behalf of the city of Circleville for the purpose of creating a grade separation over the existing Norfolk and Southern rail lines and known as PIC Circleville RRGS PID 115981 feasibility study.
Great, thank you very much. So committee, tonight we have a presentation. Jim, you want to introduce your guest? Jim, the Director of Public Service, is here. And
Yep, thank you. This seems like it's been going on for 10 years already, and it just about has been. So this is just an update on what Structure Point has been doing, what's been done to this point, and what we can look at as what's coming up in the future here. So I'm going to hopefully have a project started by early 2030s, but I'd like to go sooner than that, but I don't have faith that'll happen. So we'll let these guys update us on what's going on right now. And you may have seen Structure Point's vehicles down along Court Street. They've been doing an alignment study, which is where we're at. So they'll bring you up to date on that. And then what to look for in the future. So
okay,
thanks. And I have
We'll let
Frank
them
Aransky,
go ahead.
Craig Littmer are going to be the presenters. So I'll let them do the rest.
Great, thank you, Jim. Come on up to the podium. Welcome. If you'd give us your name again for the clerk.
I'm Craig Littmer with American Structure Point.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. I'm a project manager. So yeah, we're, like Jim said, we're just here to deliver an update of where we've come from and where we're heading on this project. So for the recap, this is the overall view of the city with the emergency services kind of laid out and the position of the railroad with respect to that. We know that there are train delays that happen in the city. And when these stoppages and delays happen, it cuts off critical emergency response ability to service the south side of the city. So understanding that problem, we can improve that with an infrastructure solution. So a bridge or a tunnel that's grade separated from the railroad that would provide unlimited access during those times when the train is present. So with that, we developed a purpose and need statement so we could evaluate any alternative that we come up with for the alignments. So that purpose and need is very specific, and it's a requirement of ODOT for projects that follow the PDP process. So the purpose and need statement was we need to improve emergency response reliability, improve safety and mobility for users, and to reduce train-related delays. So from that, we developed a basis of comparison for all these potential locations. So these were the requirements, no more than 5% approach grade. We wanted to make sure that this was a roadway that you're going to be able to maintain, plow, all that stuff, not make it a cheap bridge because you're trying to do the lift too quickly. We needed to make sure we span the railroad right of way, provide adequate vertical clearances for each scenario, whether it's a tunnel or a overpass, and then make sure that we're not interfering with any future plans of the railroad. So with that, we did a citywide study and looked for any potential locations that aligned with good existing infrastructure or future plans for mobility in the city. So there's some east-west objectives that we noticed in the city. So we studied the extensions of Island Road, Progress Parkway, and Kreitz Road. We looked at an underpass option for East Main Street. and then overpasses down the, the heart of that stoppage, Court Street, Pickaway, and Washington. Right off the bat, we using the purpose and need statement we developed, we were able to get down to the 4 most eligible alternatives based on those objectives. So these were located in areas of natural corridors, north and south on Court Street, Pickaway, Washington, and Progress Parkway. So these were the ones we carried to the formal feasibility study. So we did alignment analysis, traffic analysis, developed typical sections, and weighed them on environmental impacts. And then finally, we went to the public to do the involvement meeting with those 4 alternatives. So that meeting occurred March of last year at Heritage Hall and the fairgrounds. We had over 100 participants that signed in. I think there's probably closer to 150 total people there. Great participation. It was very encouraging. The public is engaged, passionate about the city. They recognize that there's a problem, and they had a good idea of what they wanted to see the method to fix that problem. So I would say the overwhelming public response was that Court Street was their preferred alternative. It's a well-traveled road. It's the natural wayfinding for existing emergency services, and it was encouraging to hear that. So with that, we were able to identify that as the preferred corridor of those 4 alternatives, and we submitted the feasible study with that finding to ODOT. And that was an important moment to be able to have a preferred alternative, because in ODOT's eyes, and the Ohio Environmental Services and Ohio Rail Development Commission, they wanted us to have a project, not an idea of how to fix it. They wanted us to have an alignment. And once we had an alignment and went through that environmental process, now we had a project that was able to be considered for funding consideration. So that was a big turning point for us. So we had the support of the Ohio Rail Development Commission to submit for this FRA Rail Crossing Elimination Program last year. This is a limited time funding source. It's obviously a nationwide submittal. ORDC submitted 4 of these this year, but this was the only one that was in the maturity to have the preliminary engineering done, and we really have construction funds that we submitted for. So that's really encouraging, and really kudos to everyone who's been working on this project for a very long time. We found out this January that we were approved for funding from the $25 million estimated construction cost. $20 million, so 80% was funded, and the remaining 20% will be split between ORDC and Circleville at $2.5 million each. So with our project partners, Structure Point, Circleville, ORDC, ODOT, now we have the Federal Railroad Administration. They'll help us administer project funds throughout the design and construction process with oversight from ORDC and ODOT. So a lot of support in this project. So that gets us the summary of steps that we've gotten to this point. And now forward, we're going to do an alternative evaluation analysis report. So that takes that Court Street alternative and fine tunes it. We're going to be looking, with real survey information. What's the most efficient use of that? Is it going to be to the right a little bit to avoid some of the property conflicts? Do we need to realign some intersections prior to that? So that's really what we're after now. So once that's submitted, we'll do another public involvement meeting and garner some feedback. And then we go to detailed design all the way to right-of-way. So right-of-way authorization right now is scheduled for 2028 with construction in 2030. We developed this whole schedule for design from here forward in coordination with ORDC as an aggressive schedule. We want to be well ahead of the FRA grant requirements so we can easily encumber any delays we have with review times and authorization for future phases, stuff like that. So we want to make sure we're in the driver's seat and able to get past any hurdles. So this was the alignment that we showed at the public involvement meeting for South Court Street. We'll be looking to refine that. The people that you saw out there earlier a couple weeks ago, those were our surveyors. They've done topographic survey and some boundary work along that corridor that's going to help guide us in our design efforts. And as we try to further study this solution. So that's the material I have presented. Does anyone have questions?
I do. So, when we decide to go forward with this, the people in that area that are impacted, whether it be homes or businesses, I'm sure there's a land acquisition process. When is that in the timeline? Is that just prior to construction or is that way ahead of time?
I think that right-of-way acquisition, right-of-way authorized, that's when you begin, it's a multi-year process. We have ODOT right-of-way, they have a process where they go in and they help identify people that will be displaced, come up with a monetary amount for the damages and help find them a new place to go.
Sure.
That's equal to what they have now. So it's a very fair and prescribed process.
Right. Because that's one of the most sensitive issues is that while we're doing this to improve for all the reasons you mentioned, there are going to be people severely impacted and they're going to lose their business or their home.
Right.
So I didn't know. So you're saying that's going to be in the 2028 timeframe?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, this opportunity, folks like to walk down to Walmart, whatnot too. Is there a pedestrian allowance here?
Yes, there are sidewalks on the bridge that we're proposing.
Very good. Thank you.
So these are today's costs. What are you anticipating in 5 years?
We used an inflation factor that accommodated that.
Okay.
That's why the construction costs that we came up with, ODOT has a calculator for that, the construction point mid date, and it gave us, probably an absurd number to us, but I don't recall off the top of my head, but it was used for design and construction. So we try to give you real costs based on the information we have now.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor, other questions? Go ahead.
I have a question. On your map, you have the structures that will be removed and also the structures that are impacted that are in blue. What will be the effect on those specifically, or is it just different depending on what it is?
Yes, that's exactly what the AER phase is for. We're showing that, as we raise the grade, there's that natural earth mounding that comes up. For some of those properties, we can put a retaining wall in front, stop that grading and impact the frontage of a property lesser so than a full acquisition. That's what we're studying now. In some cases, even a 10-foot wall in front of their house is not desirable or makes sense. So we're doing retaining wall justification studies, looking at cost and impacts as part of that. So at the point that we developed this graphic it was GIS level information, not real survey. And we were doing our best to be realistic, but sensitive to, if you tell someone they see a line on their house or not on their house, they're either safe or not safe. There's a gray area in there where we're really trying to figure out the exact impact.
Well, and having said that, I know I've talked to the Director of Public Service one-on-one about this, but we have some real opportunity on the west side of Court Street to take that overpass to the west and maybe not be such an impact to the houses on the east.
Sure.
And also do some really nice work there on those properties.
Yeah, we see the same benefit. That's kind of part of that analysis. Can we swing that alignment around? Skewed bridges are part of that. We'd have to come up with some kind of a bridge type study to see if it gets longer, how the grades play in as you're coming back down to at Ohio Street. Yeah, that's all part of it. We recognize the same opportunity that you see, and we're excited about that.
And the reason I asked that, so we're not locked into a straight up and over. We're not locked into that. It can be.
The vertical alignment will essentially be up and over. The horizontal alignment can go.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah, we'll use all the tools we have, maintaining proper horizontal curvature that's recommended by ODOT. we'll use all the tools in the tool bag to try to make this the best we can.
So when they are constructing this, traffic will be diverted.
Yes.
So how long of a time period might, I live on Court Street, can you tell? So it's just, I'm really curious of, how long does a project like this last?
It's a good question. It can vary. I know a full closure, you're not trying to maintain traffic or anything like this. It's really not feasible here. It does drive for quicker construction. We are sensitive to, the construction of the bridge, will the inherent construction of that eliminate access to some of these driveways? That's another consideration we have for property impacts. We want to make sure there's adequate routing, detour signage, pedestrian detours, all that. As far as total duration, I would expect maybe under a year, maybe right at a year. One construction season, maybe going into the next. I think that's a realistic expectation.
I think we'd heard a year before.
Yeah.
That's the number I remember in my head, that it'd be
Right.
about a year, 12-month project.
Yeah, the 1 year buffer, it's all, so when a project sells, the first step is the pre-construction, the utility relocation. So a contractor really doesn't like to break ground until all utilities are out of the way of their work. And sometimes that doesn't always happen as quick as we can. At Structure Point, we pride ourselves in being some of the best utility coordinators out there. We try to, get contacts of all utilities that are affected, get their relocation plans, actually look at them, make sure it makes sense, and make sure they're assigned to a time. They know the project is coming, and they're ready to hit the ground running when they're authorized to go.
Because while the project goes on, we'll still have all the train traffic, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we can't
Still have all
work.
the trains.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Is there a possibility of rerouting some of the electric lines and that sort of thing underground with the redoing these things?
It is possible. Usually they're required to replace in kind, relocate their aerial, relocate to aerial. And sometimes communities will pitch in additional money to run a conduit for them to be in underground. We've seen that before, but typically if it's overhead, it'll probably continue to be, unless you feel strongly, and we can work with that too.
So that's a nice to have at our cost.
Pardon?
Go underground.
Right. There's some cost to it traditionally.
I appreciate your work and the community gatherings. This is much needed, especially for the safety of knowing how many emergency vehicles go through and they get stuck. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I had one more question. Just
Sure.
what are your plans for updates to us as we're moving along? Because I know this picture's a little rough, so we'll kind of get a better feel as things move along and things of that nature.
Yeah, we have monthly meetings set up with Jim and ORDC. I think we can talk about during them when it makes sense at critical points to update the council. At minimum, during stage submissions, we identified, end of this year, 5/26, 11/26. We'll have review plans. Sometimes those won't look like a lot of updates, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes to try to firm up some of that design information. I know from stage 1 to stage 2, roadway plans don't look much different, but the bridge people have plenty of calculations and reports that are vital to making sure it's a constructible and safe structure.
Thank you.
Your next guest?
I just add a hint. Frank Aransky with American Structure Point. I do want to say on the construction side, we have to obtain a better understanding how much settlement needs to occur as part of that when you upload potentially 30 feet of fill range there. So there could be a part where that just has to naturally settle. We could try to make that happen quicker, but that could add to that year time frame where it's just sitting there. It doesn't look work's being done, but you're letting that soil underneath settle before we actually build on it. So
Okay.
it could take a little bit longer depending.
Frank, as you're talking about that, we have these double-decker carts that come through and whatnot too. Is that settlement going to cause any problems, or we have it high enough that it will not, pose a concern?
Building outside of the rail right away, we'll have the walls there, and really any of the settlement should be occurring behind that on the public right away that we would own at that time and outside of
And
the,
then there's plenty of room for height-wise, vertical-wise? Okay.
yep, that's a 23 and a half minimum that we would have.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Other questions before I go back to Jim with the resolution? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Jim, back to the resolution that we have in front of us. So the resolution you have basically says we're accepting the study and we're saying it's going to be South Court Street. Officially saying it's going to be South Court Street.
That's correct. And I think it also mentions the $2.5 million that we're going to put in as part of the project. At this point, ODOT says from that feasibility study that that's where it's going to be. So we're just affirming that we're behind that.
And after this resolution, other than maybe some financial things, is there any other legislation coming before council?
There may be some more when we get into the engineering and final acceptance of the $20 million grant. There might be some legislation with that. But that would be strictly based on either ORDC or federal requirements if we need further legislation.
Legislation or anything related to land acquisition is handled by the state?
Now, land acquisitions, if we're going to be involved in the purchase, yes, there may be some meetings we have that requires your input as far as that goes as a council. That's true.
Jim, when you need it for the preferred alternative, obviously we got the preferred corridor, but once we select left or right. probably
Right.
look at that line.
Right. So that would be probably in another year.
Yeah, the AAR.
Yeah. So once this study gets finished up with the alignments and we have the public meeting, we see what comes out of the public meeting and what makes the most sense, then we'll have another kind of resolution accepting that alignment, the final alignment in this corridor.
Yeah.
So,
This resolution just selects Court Street,
yes,
not what it's finally going to look like.
not what it's finally going to look like. So that's where we're at now, is figuring out what it's finally going to look like. So, and like they did mention, we have utilities running underneath that rail, and we have to determine also where our water lines are going to end up, we have sanitary sewer, we have storm sewer. If they end up under a bridge abutment, we might have to move one way or the other, but was that considered in the cost of the $25 million? Yeah.
Future accessibility too.
So, and we also want to make sure when we're talking about pedestrian and other than motor vehicle accessibility, that we have plenty of width on the bridge to allow for bicycles, pedestrians, that type of thing. So all that will be brought up in the future when we get closer to a final design of the bridge.
And back to Jeff's point, so as far as future updates for council or council needed action, we're going to rely on you to come and say, hey,
Yeah.
We got to bring Structure Point back to give you a new update or a decision to be made. And we're going to rely heavily on you to tell us when we
Yep.
need to do that.
Absolutely. And the reason this took so long is we waited basically 6 months for the Federal Rail Administration to actually say to ORDC, they said we had the money in January, but I think it was June or July before we actually were guaranteed the money, even though they said we had it in January. So it took that long before we could actually do anything else. Otherwise, we would have been here 3 or 4 months earlier.
Okay.
So you should be updated more often than once a year. I mean, I'd like to go at least every 6 months or something like, just depending on what's going on with the design and acquisitions or whatever.
Yeah, you'll just have to let us know.
Yep.
We'll accommodate at the appropriate committee.
Absolutely.
Other questions for Jim related to the resolution? Any other questions for the consultants while they're here from Structure Point?
Definitely helpful. Appreciate it.
Is there a motion on the resolution?
Make a motion to suspend the rules
How about forward it to council?
or forward it to council over there.
We'll make a motion to forward it to the next council
That's
meeting,
right, we're at committee of the whole.
which
I'm
will
sorry.
be on October the 7th,
I'll second the motion.
seconded by Tom Klitschko. Roll call, please, on the motion.
Hedges.
Yes.
Tice.
Yes.
Plitzka.
Yes.
Hallinan.
Yes.
Moats.
Yes.
Lukasak.
Yes.
Okay, so this resolution will go to city council on
The 7th of October.
October 7th. Thank you for being here in your presentation. The media's here. I'm sure they'll cover it. I've given them your PowerPoint. And thank you for being here. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved by Sherry Tice, seconded by Katie Hedges. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The
Thank
committee
you,
as a
gentlemen.
whole is adjourned at 6:25 PM. Thank you very much for being here.